Chandelier makes it Christmassy back there.
Makes it Christmassy. So, one of the things that we can start doing, I don't know if it's in the liner notes, or if we just do it like on Instagram or certainly on the website, but we need to add additional photo shots and things like that. Like, we should take, when we were in person with the guests, take a little selfie with them to post that. But anyway, the story I'm about to tell, last night we did my bincho yaki, my Japanese grill.
The Japanese grill that basically looks like a little, it looks like
an altar. An altar. How about an altar?
An altar. I mean, I was just going to say it looks kind of like the curb or whatever, a little brick setup for people that don't know what I'm about to say it. A Japanese yaki.
Bincho yaki.
Bincho yaki.
Yeah.
It's just like it's an assortment of like 3 layers of bricks that then stacked up that has like a little
stones.
trough.
There's stones.
Maybe
stones and then bricks. Stones and then stone on top, and then fire bricks with a trough, and then you have the bincho charcoal, a Japanese hardwood charcoal.
Yeah.
Put that in there, and then that's it.
How's that? Hey, there's that chart. That's Japanese hardwood charcoal. Is that because that wood comes from Japan?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you can buy other local, hardwoods, but this type, it burns really, really hot.
Yeah.
And it burns very smokeless.
Yeah.
And it burns for a long period of time. So
back to your story. You had it going last night.
We had it going last night, and so I have to heat up the bincho prior to putting it on the grill. So I flame that up, and we have a great picture of me in real time. I mean, it's sparking, and you see stuff, and it looks normal to me, but in the picture, because of time delay, it looks like a jet engine pouring up into the sky. It's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh!
So we need to share photos like that, because we tell a story and then someone can't see it. They're like, I want to see what the bincho chart.
We do to the website, and there's that, and the person that manages our social media, and then our website, and our team of people that we have going here at Drop the Check Studios. We'll put somebody on it.
Put someone on it. It's easy.
Yeah. So back to the Christmas thing. You got your tree. For those that can't see, there's a tree back there, and there's a beautiful chandelier in the green room of Drop the Check HQ, Robbie Meyer, winemaker's studio. Me, Mike Anderson. What do I have? I got, maybe I should put like a Santa Claus hat on the Swami that's behind me.
You should put a Santa hat on Swami.
I do something. I'll put a scarf.
Is Swami's name just Swami, or does Swami have another name?
Well, he does have another name. It's It's the Swami, which, for those that don't know or may have not heard this before, at night he slips out of his little perch and he creeps around the house, protecting everything amongst Anderhouse. In fact, as I was saying that, I was thinking about that Japanese grill, thinking he should have some kind of Bicho Yaki type of name or something.
Yeah.
The Bicho Yaki Swami.
That's
B-Y, Swami.
I was going to say, just for the record, Bincho is spelled B-I-N-C-H-O.
Hey, bro, look, I don't know how far I went in Japanese class.
Me either. I bet your daughter would like to know.
She probably already does know. She's getting dialed into her Japanese. Actually, right now it's Mandarin.
Okay.
She's learning Mandarin.
Yep.
Okay. Well, what do we have? What do we have going on here today at Drop the Check Studios?
Well, I like this because so far we've had some great guests, and we've had a couple winemakers. Yeah. We've had proprietors. We've had vignerons. We've had chefs. And we'll continue to have all those people. But, as this being the podcast about making a podcast,
Yep.
things evolve, and it's funny. We've talked about it before. If you go back and listen to the Matt Rourke interview, or you listen to the Chef Joshua interview, conversation, as we like to say, it's a different flow. It's a different rhythm and everything like that, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And,
Sure.
you were still getting involved and showing me how to do things the right way. But we're just learning and evolving. And as we are talking to chefs and vignerons and proprietors and winemakers and whoever else may be involved, the conversation is always about culture and who you are and how you got here and contributing to society and what that's all like. And again, like I say, it's not like there's other walks of life that don't do that, but certainly we can say that artists, musicians, entertainers, actors, all are part and parcel to that. They're contributors to society, to the culture of society, building culture in a different way than, say, well, I'm not going to give examples, in just a different way. It's a contribution to culture. And so I like having some other guests on here who may have an interest in wine, or of course everybody eats, you have an interest in food, but it's their interest in culture and participating in culture and contributing to culture that I think is cool. And so that's one that we're going to have on today, our first, someone who fulfills that thing. And it's really funny because he happens to cross both of our paths separately and over many, many years, weirdly.
Weirdly, I mean, do I say weirdly that we all end up somehow we're cross paths with one another if you're just paying attention enough that, like, wow, that's weird. That we found out later on with this particular person who's about to be our guest today. Oh, wow, I met this person. You're like, you're kidding me. You met this person? I met this person back when here in Atlanta, where I am today. Sometimes our guests are out there in California, Napa, where you are. So it's interesting that we're like way back at this point in time that we'll talk about in the 90s, mid 90s or whatever, we were crossing paths with one another. But it's really kind of funny too, because we start finding out that many of us, when we get to a certain age beyond that point in time, I don't necessarily know if this is just an Atlanta thing, we all start going, oh, I was there too. Wait a minute, you must have been there the same time I was there. We're all kind of at these places at this particular point in time. Yeah.
And it's that is absolutely true, and I think about it, all the time, because we everybody does this in life. You meet different people that you're at the same point in time, and maybe you didn't cross paths, even though you might have been aware, whatever, you just didn't. And I always think of, like, I'd love to have like some computer imagery tracking device to see someone else in your life and like where you were around the world at different times and how close you might have come, or that you walked right past each other on the sidewalk, or you were at the same concert, or you just didn't even know it. You just didn't know the person, but they were right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who are we talking to?
We are talking to as in like the Swami, the Dave Willis.
Yes, indeed. Who has just such a really, really cool, talk about contribution to culture. He has so many interesting projects that he's worked on. And, I don't know if we should go into him right here in the intro, because we'll talk to him about that. But, I remember when I first met him, he was working on Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
That's right.
And we'll talk about it. I was like, what? What is this concept?
Right.
And he's continued to do so many cool and interesting things and fun things, and I'm really anxious to see what his perspective is on the enjoyment that you get out of doing it, just the fun activity that it is, the enjoyment out of creating, but also the fact that, hey, it's still work. It doesn't come without toil. It doesn't come without, effort and work and blood, sweat, and tears. And so, I can't wait to hear all about it.
Amen. So without further ado, what do you say? Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to Drop the Check. Today's special guest is a pop culture icon who's got as many faces as he does voices. He's the mastermind behind Squidbillies and Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And he doesn't just sit at a desk, he stands at one. Let's give a warm welcome to actor, writer, producer, Dave
Willis.
Okay, I mean, look, yeah, look, right? You might have a stronger earpiece.
Or just a stronger vocal with all that caffeine pumping through your veins. You're just, or maybe
I'm a
you're just
voiceover pro, guys.
You're just excited to be with us.
Yeah. Hey, look, Dave, for a lot of people that don't know what you look like because they see you as several characters, there is a real strong Clint Eastwood resemblance to you, man.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you think Clint's got this situation going on back here?
Maybe, I don't know. You have a cowboy hat or something might.
Could you talk to an empty chair for a second? And
oh yeah, easily. Here, hold on. Because I'm in a standing desk right now, and it's. Can I say it's fucking exhausting?
I guess you just did it. There it is.
Person that is trying the standing desk. So yeah, I'm always talking to the chair next to me right there, right?
How are you feeling about the standing desk? I mean, are you doing active or all day working from the standing desk?
Brutal.
Yeah.
I can occasionally do this. I can bring it down in case.
Yeah.
But that's not a very flattering view, right?
Right there. Let's just leave it there for the rest of the conversation.
It's like podcasting. There's a level of not give a shit in that or maybe that's even funny. It's even funnier, Dave, that your view is your chin and the voice.
Yeah, just the lower part of the face where you can see the mouth since you do voiceover work, or we could just go with that.
Focus on this. This is the money.
That's where it all comes from. There it is.
That's where it all comes from. Well, awesome to see you. It's only been 20-something years since I've seen you.
That's right. I'm trying to think. I might have seen you out there in Napa when you first moved out there. I did a marathon in the late 90s, and I knew...
The Napa Valley Marathon or the San Francisco
Marathon? It was the San Francisco, and Meredith, who we connected through, she ran a mile with me, just for fun, and I want to say I went to Napa, maybe we saw each other, I'm not sure.
I mean,
you were on your own journey then.
I laugh at other people all the time about how could they possibly, not remember. I mean, I'm just starting to go through that now. It's although maybe it comes with senility. There's other things that I remember quite clearly, and going back to Meredith Fierman, our dear friend, and she was working at Cartoon Network at the time. I mean, I could get into a whole origin story about her. I just oddly, coincidentally met her in Piedmont Park one day. We became friends because of my roommates and other friends. And I don't know how it happened that I went down to Cartoon Network, and I was just Meredith was showing me around and introduced to you. And I was like, well, that guy's strange. I was like, I'd like to hang out with that guy. So,
I really wasn't trying to project strange, I'll tell you that much. I was trying to project normal in an office environment.
And so we just started hanging out, doing stuff from time to time. And, what I also find is funny, I was fascinated. I was just telling Mike about this at the time you were working on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And we'll go back to that. But I was thinking back about what did we do? I think one of the last times we were hanging out in Atlanta, we were making a run to Pep Boys for a carburetor. We both had broken down cars, and this would be a classic thing. It was maybe a Tuesday afternoon, maybe a Sunday afternoon, and you call up, hey man, what are you up to? Nothing. I'm gonna go. I need to get a carburetor. You want to go? Yeah, man, I'm up for it. Let's go. And who knows, whatever. But I just had the best time, hearing your stories. At that time, I was doing, this kind of pharmaceutical work and had such a mundane life, and just going over to check out Cartoon Network. Like you say, you were in an office environment. But it was cool, man. It was not like offices that I was around. I mean,
true.
Yeah. So take me back to that time when how long had you, so this is 1996. I can remember that much. How long had you been, when did you start there at Cartoon Network?
Oh my God. So I started middle of 95.
Okay.
And that was my dream job, but I didn't know, I wasn't really sure. I was like inventing myself and discovering myself at the same time. But yeah, I'd only been there maybe a year.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, oh my God, I'm in the gates. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to edit? Am I going to produce?
Yeah.
And the people ahead of me kept getting better jobs elsewhere. And so I was like, I'm going to start writing cartoons. Holy shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, I did cartoons for the high school and the college paper, and I was a college DJ and
Where was college too?
Wake Forest.
Yeah.
And I was just, I knew wanted to do something creative, and I spent a couple of years after college like trying to figure out, wasn't trying to make money, was purely on this Kerouac kick, like I'm just gonna work odd jobs and travel around and just find myself. And God bless my parents for staying with that and letting and not getting in my shit about it. And and I was great. I was like I worked as a deckhand, and on the Mississippi River. I worked on at some fish refinery in Alaska. I was a lift op at Winter Park, Colorado, and just did a bunch of stuff. And then I finally kind of reached the end of that and was like, all right, it's time to kind of make some money because.
In doing that, like all those various jobs, like you said, it sounds like you knew that was never a career path for you, but it was kind of a source of adventure and to explore and do all that. And is that in some ways, cognizant or not, just gathering creative information, stuff for your brain to work on at a future time?
I don't know what I was doing really. I mean, I knew it was like kind of like a gap year before that term existed, but it was like a gap 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was writing a lot of songs, like a ton of songs, and was performing whenever I could at open mic nights. And I think I came out of that 2 years I told my dad, I was like, I think I want to give music a real try here. And he was like, why don't you just try juggling? I mean, the world needs jugglers. The circus will be in town in a couple of months. You could see if they need an acrobat. You could learn how to do flips.
Yeah.
Just really, really feeding it to me.
What did he do for a
After he
living?
paid for my college and everything.
What did he do for a living?
And then I think that's when I sort of sat down and was like, all right, what is going to make me happy? And so I'd also volunteered on a lot of films or not films, like corporate video and crappy Falcons training camp special. Like I was the one that held the boom mic like this.
Yeah.
Whenever the players would run.
No, I think we may have been on some of those same jobs, Dave. Exactly.
It's possible. I told Mike we went to a game, and I said, I was there at Brett Favre's rookie season because I remember seeing it back of. It was the joke from Something About Mary. I was like, Favre.
Yes, right. Absolutely. That's him.
And I never really, I'd see him take a few reps, and at no point was I like, oh, this guy's got Hall of Fame written on him.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
I was like, who the hell is he? It was Bo Bach's Falcons training camp special.
Oh my God, the legend of Atlanta, Bo Bach too. Which
I don't even remember who that is.
When we were talking about this, Dave, and Robbie and I were talking about, well, first of all, that just you and I meeting, and you knowing Robbie, and this being in the mid '90s, and looking back to like, it seemed at that point, because of maybe where we are right now, what a small town this was. And everyone knew each other. And for the fact of, like you said, you just are a young guy that know that you want to get somewhere in some creative deal here in Atlanta, which there weren't a whole lot of opportunities in Atlanta. A lot of people did the migration out of here, right? And there were those few places that were Turner jobs, which a much smaller place at that point in time, a few Crawford and those places, that you took whatever you could get. But like you said too, some people maybe more like you. I wasn't that guy because I was always scared as shit because I was just going to run out of money. I'm going to run out of money after next week. You know, I'm going to do that. I would take that bullshit job way down on the ladder, thinking the top of that ladder that I was climbing was going to get me where I wanted to go creatively. And then let's say you go from being a production assistant to an art department assistant because it's, you know, $100 more a day. I would take that and stretch it out and become more involved in art department rather than. It sounds like what you did. Like when you said doing music, that was the route.
Well, but I also, you know, during college, I volunteered on shoots whenever possible. I mean, like I worked on a shoot for NBA Inside Stuff where we went to Birmingham and watched Michael Jordan play baseball and then interviewed him afterwards. You know, I'd take whatever I could get to get experience in that, even though I didn't know 100% that was my future. And then for a good 9 months, I was like, I will work for free on any shoot whatsoever. And it would eventually lead to getting paid a little bit. But I did all sorts of crazy shit. Like there was a roller coaster called the Viper.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, hell yeah.
They've taken it down at Six Flags, but I was the guy that they put in this very dangerous, vibrating platform underneath the loop with a fog machine and a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would just get, fog her up, Dave, over. You know? And meanwhile, they had background people in that roller coaster, and they were just running it over and over again. I mean, those people all must have CTE.
Yeah.
But I could see across the field all these people my age at Video Village, like eating lox and bagels with capers, and I was just like salivating over it and going, how did they get that job?
Sure.
Like, that's the job I want. Yeah. Like, why am I the asshole with the fog machine that's not even getting paid?
Right.
And you didn't get paid to do that job?
If I did, it was
$5 an hour.
Bucks, but it was like well earned.
Hey, you guys remember Buford the Buzzard at Six Flags?
Yeah.
I remember that.
He was the same thing. He was a guy who sat in a box. It was a buzzard, and he did the other thing. He was a substitute teacher at Marietta High School.
Oh, my Lord, of course.
So we thought he was like the most famous cool guy. Sure. I love Buford the Buzzard. But he clearly was not making ends meet.
Was that at Monster Plantation?
Yeah. It was somewhere. It was like right outside of Monster. Yeah.
Go back!
Don't go here. No!
Don't go in here!
So I'm interested, and I didn't ask you this before. We haven't talked about this before. Like, you do get into Cartoon Network. I mean, where I would have loved to get there, seeing that there may be a ladder that obviously that you climb that.
Because Turner was big. Turner was,
sure.
They were, to me, from my outside perception, they were growing rapidly. I mean, if you watch them grow since we were, WTBS, when we were, whatever it was when we were little, to me, they were growing rapidly in a great way. And Cartoon Network was blowing up, in my opinion.
No, it was. I mean, CNN started when we're all about the same age. I mean, CNN started when I was 10 years old, and for the longest time they were just chasing fire trucks, and people called them the Chicken Noodle Network until the space shuttle exploded. Then, because they were covering every space shuttle launch, and all of a sudden, that was the first time CNN became a real factor in the news. But by the time I got hired there, Cartoon was a few years old. And he had the formula. He just bought Hanna-Barbera. He had previously bought MGM and turned it into Turner Classic Movies. And it was it was cool that was happening in my backyard, because frankly, at that point in my life, I don't know if I had the confidence to really go to LA and just do the whole, try to get on a sitcom as a writer's assistant.
For sure. Did you start there as creative Dave, or did you go in like I'm going to take anything over there?
I wrote I had a good resume at that point. I had worked on a ton of shoots, and they were hiring a PA for $250 a week.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, I was like thrilled. I was like, I can get out of the house,
Yeah.
I'll get a job waiting tables at night. This is right up my alley. And but I'd also had one of my sister's students write this letter on my behalf. This 8-year-old, he just wrote, and I just gave him what to write, and he just drew pictures of cars all over it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just wrote, my name is Tony. I'm 8. Dave Willis exhibits a professionalism which I find profound in this day and age. I recommend it without reservation, Tony.
Yeah.
In this day and age.
Yeah, and I think that got me hired. And then, I didn't really get into the creative right away, but everything was so small staff that you kind of needed everybody to sort of pitch in, and so the opportunities were there.
And is that how you
out in LA?
Is that how you just kind of fell into Space Ghost, or did you create that, or how did that
No,
roll?
I didn't. They like when I got hired, Andy Merrill hired me, and he gave me a bunch of VHS tapes of Space Ghost, and I watched them at home, and I was like, I never have felt more lucky in my life. I was like, I cannot believe this is an amazing show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to work on this.
Yeah.
It was I was like a pig in shit. I mean, I couldn't believe it, and it took me a while. I had to get some chops, and when working with Andy and with other guys, Matt Harrigan, Matt Malero, and Mike Lazo, it really, sharpened you. And the other thing that was great about it wasn't just making sausages. I mean, if Mike, our boss at the time, if he didn't like the show, he was able to change programming. He's head of programming, and he would just say, I pushed it a month. We're going to premiere it in July instead of June.
Yeah.
And we're going to completely rewrite this.
Yeah. Would he say, you fuckheads, at the end of it? Pushing this a month, you fucker, we're going to rewrite it.
Times it felt like that, but it was like boot camp, but
yeah.
And it was nice to have a boss that was just like, I want this so funny you can't even look at it.
Yeah.
Were you just writing at that point, or were you doing voice work? And you weren't the voice of Space Ghost.
I backed into voices because we were non-union and we never had the money to hire anybody good.
Yeah.
So, and I would do the table reads and do a bunch of voices in the table reads, and people would just be like, "Oh, let's just use Dave's voice." I've kind of gotten used to it. And
were you Space Ghost? What characters were you on that?
I would do a version of Space Ghost in the table read, which is very stiff. And George, the real voice of Space Ghost, would be very annoyed with how I would do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would very much read him.
Right.
The thing I would be like, do it like this.
Yeah.
Where are you going, Zorak?
It was great. Didn't you have this? Maybe you create things on your own invention, but like I remember different guests you guys had on. Like, didn't you have weren't Metallica big fans of your guys, and they like announced their tour on Space Ghost or something crazy like that?
I don't know if they announced their tour, but they were. I got to interview them over the phone, which was really cool.
Great.
I mean, shit like that happened all the time. Like. I come home and I'd be like, I talked to Metallica today.
Yeah.
I had a conference call with Metallica. They brought these little guitars that would press, these toy guitars that would press the button and just do it. But yeah, it was, I kind of moved into interviewing, doing a lot of the interviews as Space Ghost, which it was already like this disaffected vibe because they're in some monitor in space, but like I would sometimes for a minute not say anything and just wait for them to be awkward, and and we would do it out of a usually a CNN studio. It's rare that somebody would be in town, so I would be on the voice on a speakerphone to some CNN studio in LA. And one time I was interviewing a guy, and Peter Scolari, who is was one of the lesser known bosom buddies.
Bosom buddy,
Tom,
right.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I was interviewing him, and I did that where I just waited a full minute, and then I asked a question, and he never responded, and I couldn't see. We didn't have Zoom.
Right.
So, and I hear the crew guy go, "He left, man."
That's great. A segue that you could have done your own Peter Scolari voice on the other side and responded yourself.
Well, we forgot to get him to sign the waiver. So at that point, that's when I said, get him to sign the waiver right when they walk in.
Yes,
Yeah.
Before they know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, from Space Ghost and the success of Space Ghost, that gets you to what in your trajectory there at Cartoon Network?
I mean, I was just thrilled to do that, you know. And
Yes.
they brought back Matt Malero, and he and I were kind of a writing team on that and producing it. And we'd write during the day, and I'd sit with editor at night, and we made, God, I don't know, at least 50 more of those. You know, and I got really good at that one particular show.
Yeah.
Making that one particular show, which no other show on the planet is like. But I really loved it. But then they were talking to us about this Adult Swim thing and what they were going to try to do. And they've been testing a lot. They've been doing a lot of focus testing with mothers specifically to go, how would you feel if at 10 o'clock this kids network becomes sort of a little dicier, a little crazier, like a little more adult oriented, and I think they were generally okay with that, and so we dipped our toe in there, and Matt and I had this show idea, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which we loved. We wrote an episode of Space Ghost where Space Ghost tries to interview Willie Nelson, but he's already made a bad deal with a fast food company called Burger Trench, and to have this very public product placement by their characters.
Yeah.
And so the Aqua Teens just take over the show.
Yeah.
And our boss was like, Space Ghost only says one line in this whole episode. And we were like, yeah, that's the point. He's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we loved those characters and loved that idea. And so we saw an opportunity and we pitched it, and it was terrible. I'd never pitched a show before. I was in a room full of people that I knew at Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
And the BlackBerry was kind of new at the time. And I remember the moment when we lost them, when everyone looked away from us and looked down at their BlackBerries.
Yeah.
When I was showing the drawings that I had done of the character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, amateur hour. And
I got a question for you real quick that you guys know, but it's you know, kind of, to me, kind of insider baseball, what someone like me doesn't understand. I know people who have you know, worked on shows under one production company, working at a network, etc. So are you getting a check from Cartoon Network? Are you an independent contractor? How does this work? You know, when you Space Ghost ends and you're pitching, you know, your next show, are you already an employee? Are you workshopping within their company? Are you got to pitch something new each time for a new job?
Are you referring to now or then?
Then.
Well, then, I mean, Space Ghost was such a weird show. Like, it was never like a huge ratings thing.
Yeah.
It almost felt like my boss's hobby.
Yeah.
Like I was hired full time to work on my boss's hobby.
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to me until I was much older, where I was like, wow, I was just really just winging it there. You know, if that show goes away, that's it. And it was never my show. I didn't invent the show. I just started on it on like episode 16. So I was an employee, and I didn't sort of receive in any of the profits or whatever, but that wasn't really that important, and I don't think it was a whole lot to begin with to fight for. You know, I was learning my trade, what I do, and we were very unique in that situation. We were part of the production company was there, William Street, which was part of Cartoon Network. They owned all the production.
Okay.
They owned the idea that we came up with as employees.
Okay.
Which is a long, there's a long story. The history is littered with that, of people who have come up with good ideas, profitable ideas as an employee.
Yeah.
And I think I've been remunerated over the years, but yeah, at the time, I was just happy to have a job doing something creative that was mine. And, I've eventually figured out the business end of things as we went.
Adult Swim too, doesn't it feel like, and again, back to we're all of this certain age, that like in retrospect you go, what a no kidding idea to come up with Adult Swim. If you take us a few years earlier back to maybe being in college, and what would happen, what was it called, Liquid Television, MTV had their own format of that you got weed now in your dorm room or your apartment, and then adult I almost said it right, I almost called it Adult Swim. Like Liquid Television comes in with these different weird formatted cartoon shows that, again, I can't even imagine, back to your pitching it, Dave, like to executives, if you're to even retrospectively go to that and say, it's Liquid Television, how is any one of those episodes, could anyone pitch those? You almost just have to do them. That maybe your deal was to say, it's kind of that, but our own deal that will go 1,000 different ways.
Well, the thing about the people I was pitching it to is they all agree with you. And so did I. I mean, they were all the people that were sort of saying this will work.
Yes.
I mean, we were all the people who saw an advanced copy of South Park that was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Sure.
A year before it ever went to TV.
Right.
We knew that, and they also had the data. They knew adults were stunted in development and watching cartoons. Yeah. And so, they're going to watch it. It was, the biggest issue really was we were on a kids network, which actually there were some federal guidelines and legislation for what you could and couldn't do on a kids network.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of, it was like, unlike South Park, which could just go crazy with vulgarity, there's no way we could even touch that. I remember we had something where, I don't know, I mean, I'm probably making this up at this point, but it was something where Meatwad called Shake, he's like, "You're a butthole." And they're like, "You can't say butthole, you can say butt." Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, so hole? Yeah. The whole, the whole has to be censored.
Yeah. That's the swing word.
Like, that's the word that makes it real. Like, it's a portal where poop exits. Like, but butt is okay.
Butthole
is so much funnier, by the way, too.
Right.
Yeah, it
but
is.
You're a butt doesn't work.
You're a butt. I know. It doesn't quite work. So we had stuff like that all the time. But by that same token, I think our bread and butter was never to be like too crazy vulgar. I think sometimes when we went that direction, it kind of backfired on us. It was funnier to be just weird and limited by what we could do, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say this, Dave, that this goes back to you saying working a whole bunch of, odd jobs or whatever. Are those the characters that you gained from, like, you're working on this construction job, that this guy is Carl, right? Or this kid that you knew back in so-and-so is some bit of somewhat vulnerable meatwad or whatever. How is it, like, are these people that are these characters?
Yeah, I mean, definitely sort of feeds into it. I would not say, like, Carl is a specific character. I mean, he's kind of a composite of a bunch of people. I had a college roommate named Bill Sorrentino that was just a huge Giants fan, just crazy Giants fan, and I cribbed a little off of him. My uncles and my dad are all from Long Island. Yeah. We've all got that sort of attitude. I mean, I watched my uncle, we went to a Thrashers playoff game, and he waited until the game started to get to a scalper, and finally, we're waiting out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The game is going on.
Prices are coming down. Prices are
Prices
dropping.
are coming down, and the guy goes, "Come on, man, $10." And my uncle's like, "5." And meanwhile, he had tickets through a friend down on the ice. So he gets me this $5 nosebleed ticket.
Yeah.
And then we go to the usher, and he shows the usher his ticket. And he's like, "Hang on a second." And he bends down to tie his shoe. All these people behind us trying to get to their seats. And he hits me in the crotch with the ticket.
Yeah.
So I'm to show the usher the same ticket.
Yeah.
And I just go down. That's my uncle. Like,
Yeah.
my uncle's got a lot of that Carl
Sure.
in him, you know. That's a little of James Gandolfini and Sopranos, you know. There's just,
And do the voices like kind of build themselves as you just digest the situation? So you write a situation, and you're developing a new character, you know, prior to it evolving into episodics. But you're developing a story, you're developing a character, and is it really just kind of thinking about how that character would respond to the situation that kind of almost creates its own voice?
Yeah, I mean, you got to build dramatic tension. Like somebody wants something, somebody's got to prevent that person from getting it, you know. And then it just sort of feeds into itself. I feel like these characters are just like archetypes for people that you know.
Yeah.
God, I was thinking. I mean, I just started. I'm not meaning to pimp this, but I just started doing cameos like for the first time in my life, and they're really fun. They're fun to just get paid to just abuse people.
Yes.
Like the Cameo app thing, Cameo.
Well, yeah, they'll last they'll ask for Carl to like. You really take the piss out of my friend, and
Yeah.
You know,
That's
great.
awesome.
and tell him he sucks, and also we need Carl a Fortnite skin, and I'm like, how old are you two? How old are you? You know, I kicked Pac-Man and Donkey Kong to the curb long ago, and that's why I'm a success, and that's why you're paying me $70 to tell your friend Merry Christmas.
That's
so good.
great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, it's
Hey,
fun.
where can they find you? Where do they find Dave
Oh, it's
Willis
on
your
Cameo. I'm up there with Brett Favre and the guy who plays Kevin in The Office.
or what's the guy who the congressman who just got
Santos. Yeah,
Santos.
number one right now.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I was about to say someone. You know, it's so hilarious when like last week people were like, "What becomes of his career now?" I'm like, "What are you fucking kidding me? His career's gonna blow up."
Yeah,
This is great for Santos. He never was supposed to be there.
Dancing with the Stars.
Oh my
Masked
god!
Singer, maybe possibly in the same week.
Easily, so many opportunities. So funny. Is it legit? Is he number one on cameos right now?
Yes, he is.
Of course.
That's
And he charged like $200. I mean, can you imagine? I'd be like, wow, you cared enough to send the very best.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and it's also, from what I imagine and I've heard, it's all like, you know, spiteful. It's basically, you know, Democrats sending it to their Republican friends. And of course, he's such a jerk. He just fall right in line, give up any sense of integrity, and just say whatever they want him to say.
I'll tip you an extra $20 if you say, I'm a fucking liar. I have no integrity.
Hey friends, Mike Anderson here for Drop the Check. Have you ever had the perfect bubble? I mean, what is the perfect bubble? Is it that one that you got from stuffing 6 wads of gum in your mouth next to the baseball field? Or maybe the ones that you blew for your kid's 2nd birthday party? For me, it's probably the one that I stick over my head when someone asks me to be on a Zoom call. But if you really want the perfect bubble, try Topo Chico. Topo Chico is the best sparkling water because the bubbles are perfect. And if there's ever a collaboration between Topo Chico and Pearson Meyer Wines, perfection times 2. Topo Chico, the bubbles are perfect.
Yeah, we came out of that meeting. Went very poorly, and our boss came out and was like, "I don't like it, but I'll let you make one." And we made a pilot, and I just had blinders on. I just loved this so much. I wasn't really thinking about any of the ramification. It was like the one time in my life where I wasn't sort of second guessing. I was just like, this is great. This is a hit.
Yeah.
You know, and it probably wasn't that great. And we started making a second one, and our boss found out that we were making a second one. He's like, I didn't say you could make a second. Like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, that's a totally. He could have fired us right there. You know, I mean, he was like, what the fuck are you doing? We're like, we just wanted to keep this flow going.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you make 6 of these if you make 6 Space Ghosts. And so that's how we got started. And then we had an ad sales guy who, I might have told you this story, Mike. It was this guy, Kim McQuilkin, who was a backup quarterback for the Falcons. Like,
Oh, no way.
way back when we were kids. Anyways, he was doing ad sales.
He wasn't actively playing with the Falcons and doing ad sales.
Although that
would have been
not hard
funnier.
to imagine during the end of the Rankin Smith era. But he pulled up at a urinal next to me, and he's like, boy, you really pulled that meatwad shit out of the fire. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, try going to, you know, Procter and Gamble and Coca-Cola with a meatball is the star of your next season. He's like, but it worked out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I guess it did.
Wow. And isn't it funny, like when you go through time and then you create something that becomes somewhat of a cultural phenomenon. And you look back to all those people, like you hear the stories of Burt Reynolds firing his agent or whatever after Boogie Nights. It's like your guy at the urinal. Yeah. What are you kidding me? I just watched this piece of shit that I was in, right? Oscar nomination, whether it's the only one, whatever, of these type of things that you've gotten that now. And it like you stand the test of time with Aqua Teen Hunger Force for sure.
Well, let's give it another 100 years.
Yeah, right?
But
You ever read that Chuck Klosterman book where he talks about 100 years from now, what will be remembered?
Sure.
Like, he's like, the Beatles, baby?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
It is.
Yeah.
But that said, it was a nice moment of redemption when we had some success and were able to make it. And it's been a nice career. I mean, we recently made these episodes and we made this movie via Zoom, and it was kind of nice because now I'm older and I can sort of appreciate it in retrospect to my life and have gratitude for how it turned out. And
Well, you know, this is something that we've hit on. You know, Mike and I developing this podcast. You know, it's originally kind of about food and wine, right? Because that's what I know. But what I preach about, what I like about my industry, is that it's fun. I like the work that we do. But the second end, when you go to bed every night, you kind of feel like in some ways you've contributed to not contributed to society, but contributed to culture. We're nothing in society without having a culture, and we're made up of things that people think are very profound, of religion or something like that, or philosophy. And sometimes it's just creating to the whole big artistic picture, the big overall reservoir, what is culture. And, while some people might not get your artwork, you can feel rest assured, I think, that you're contributing to the greater culture at large. And I mean, I think, again, like you just said, after this period of time, it's got to feel pretty good to look back and go, hey, I didn't just do this with my life. Not that there's anything wrong with any profession out there, but that you you said from the beginning, you wanted to be creative, whether that was music or whatever the case may be. And, you went through and you followed through, and for whatever it's worth, you've created a collection of things that are part of our culture now. Maybe not in 100 years. I don't know if it's Beatles material, but
It's Beatles. It's that AI Beatles material.
Yeah. Amen.
As good as that, but
but you feel that way, don't you?
well, I actually don't. I don't think about it that much, except I think about it in terms of I've been happy and thrilled that I could make a career where most of my days are really fulfilling. And I think laughing a lot has really probably been good for my health. And, I mean, some people love the show and some people don't, and, whatever. But I also think about, I do think about sometimes, Ethan Hawke, I think, had done some interview where he was talking about the value of art and culture, and I was like, I got to remember to kind of crib notes off of this, because there are times where I'm like, would I be doing more in the world if I were, for example, an electrician or, a plumber or something, something where I'm doing something really like practical and
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but
those things make a difference minute by minute. When we get in trouble, who do we call? We call the electrician. We call they're doing something incredibly important that's vital to our simple existence. Whereas when you're creating art and culture, it's kind of it's a secondary thing, but still very, very important.
Yeah, I guess it's like my dad's my hero, and he can do anything. And I think that maybe just growing up and watching that. So I never second guess. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm proud and I love everything I do, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything else. It would have been terrible, but it would have been a nightmare. A nightmare of regret and recrimination, and but yeah, I don't know.
You went in.
It's nice to just do this little cartoon that could,
Yeah. And you went into it kind of what you were just saying a second ago. When you're pitching this, you were convinced that it was the greatest thing ever. You kind of talked yourself into it, and it's funny. I don't know if you remember this. You probably, when we were out shopping for carburetors, you gave me some good advice. But I was in Atlanta working, doing this like pharmaceutical work, and I had wanted to go to UC Davis to study, viticulture and enology and winemaking. And we were talking, you're like, I don't know, what's up next? And I was like, well, don't say anything to anyone. I'm not telling anyone because I don't know how this is going to go. But I really want to go, make wine in California. I haven't been accepted to school, so I'm not telling anyone because, I might fail. I might not get into it. And I don't want people knowing about it. And you're like, really? You're like, well, whenever I'm going to do something crazy like that, I tell everyone. So I'm beholden to, so my shit's on the line, and I've got to make sure that I get it done because now I've told everyone. So I was like, that's an interesting perspective. And, it shows through. You have to have that confidence, whether you're right or wrong. If you have that confidence and commitment, it goes a long, long way. And here I'm like hiding under my little shell going, don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone. And after you said that, I was like, yeah, God damn it. That's right. Yeah. I'm going to tell everyone I'm going, and I am going to go. And it actually gave me the confidence to go out and do it.
Yeah, I'm quite sure I said that.
Yeah.
That's something I've done a number of times in my life. And then I told everyone. Now I got to do it.
No, it's very good. It's very appropriate. So, we've gotten there, and I know we can't go, show by show, but can you just list out some of the other, one of my things that I guess you're just a guest on, but you do voice work on Archer from time to time, yeah?
Yeah, I do the voice of Barry on that. That was like a fun thing that sort of fell into my lap. Matt Thompson and Adam Reed just knew me, and they were Atlanta guys too, and I guess my voice projected asshole. I never thought of myself as that, but I guess I'm good at playing that. So, and they're going to have the finale for that this Saturday or this Sunday. A movie.
Oh, awesome.
They're ending the series with a movie, and I have a little role in that, and yeah, that's been an awesome thing to do, and and I did Squidbillies for
That's right.
a number of years. That was sort of channeling, me and Jim Forty are sort of channeling our experience growing up in Conyers into talking squids in North Georgia, and I got a bunch of stuff coming in the new year, but it's all like sort of pilots.
Yeah,
it's a weird business. It's an especially weird time,
and you also had Pretty Little Face, right?
Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. Yeah, that was we did 4 seasons of that, and it was fantastic. And we had a great crew and a great cast, and all those people are Henry Zabrowski doing last podcast on the left, which is like one of the biggest podcasts out there, I think. I don't know.
You mean aside from Drop the Check?
Dropped it, yeah. Hey.
Yes, aside.
Who are you talking to?
Of course. Number 2. Behind you guys.
Yeah.
That threw me off. I know what I was going to ask you. Do you?
You didn't say no, we were number 1. Hold up.
I'm
still trying to process.
Hey, I'm out of time here. I'm out of time. No, real quick. Again, just because I'm such an outsider, and sorry for the naive, dumb questions, but so do you have a primary writing partner that you work with, or is it just with different projects, different people? Just it's how it goes.
I mean, there are some things I do myself, and then there are some things where I'll seek out somebody, or we'll just have a conversation that we're like, that's a show. Yeah. And then we'll go, well, let's make it a show. Yeah. And I love collaborating with people on script, and it kind of spackles in the cracks of your blind spots and where you might get kind of hacky and vice versa. And like I have a friend, Joe Randazzo, who's was former head writer of The Onion, and he and I both play in these over 40 soccer leagues in different cities, and we love it. Love the experience. I would say it's probably my favorite thing to do, like above my favorite thing to do at all. Like, I used to really look forward to that hour of my week. And all we do is we play a game, and then we drink a beer in the parking lot afterwards. And we were like, this is a show. Yeah. So we just kicked it around, and now we're going to shoot like a presentation pilot in February for this show idea.
Awesome.
And is this animated or not?
Live action.
Live action. Okay, so that was a perfect segue. Thank you for setting me up. How much live action have you done?
Just Your Pretty Face and a handful of spots. I did an election PSA years ago. I did, a couple music videos. Nothing too crazy. Honestly, Your Pretty Face was about me and Casper Kelly just wanting to learn how to direct on someone else's dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we loved the show that we came up with, but it was also just an opportunity for us to learn how to do this, because it's an expensive hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's no matter what, like, even if people go to, film school and some of the best film schools, there's nothing like, it's kind of like going to getting my education in enology. Sure, I learned some fundamental things, but you're not going to learn anything until you get out into the field, until you get into the cellar. That's how you learn everything. And that's the same for you guys, right? I mean, I don't even know what you studied at Wake Forest.
Political science.
See? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But isn't that the case? You have to just go pay your dues and get your hands dirty.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
It
the way
is.
I always sort of thought about it. It always seemed like the people I admired were the ones that kind of got into it through the back door and just developed a style and a voice and really learned the hard way. I mean, you're just not gonna, there's something extra to maybe not just taking a film class where daddy's paying the tuition
Yeah.
That's right.
for the short film, where you've got to figure out, how am I going to cover for this? How am I going to make this work? And it's not just about doing this or holding a lens up to your eye. It's really
Totally.
a lot more about like, how are we going to get all these guys painted red in 15 minutes
Right.
That's right. Yeah. There's a
without
whole
getting
lot
red
of
all over
screwing
the
up.
green screen?
That's right. I mean, you know what? The crystal ball would sure come in handy in life at all times, wouldn't it? If you could look through it, like you mentioned about your dad, Dave, or even the guy standing next to you in the urinal. Both of them, your dad that you respect, this guy, whoever, the backup quarterback. Either one of them could be right. And me as a father now, you guys might feel this way too, that I have also, my trajectory of life has been to be like, when I make something weird, have made something weird, and I don't know why, maybe because it was just to entertain my friends, be like you guys, that it made them laugh. And then someone later on would say, what was your inspiration or why did you do that? And I'm like, fuck shit, I don't know. And so that was who you are. But then you get to about our age and we have these kids that you see them doing whatever it is that they're doing, that you realize they're just learning on the job of life, that some of their paths may even be like yours. They might be going the right way, and you can see a way that seems conservative and the right way to go, that you find yourself almost being, unlike, basically like the guy that's the quarterback or the guy that's standing next to you in the urinal going, I don't know if that's the right choice, but I still don't know if it's the right choice.
Hold on, just
right?
as a writing viewpoint and how we interpret different things, I'd like to clarify that what you mean to say is the guy standing in the stall next to you at the urinal.
Yes.
Not standing beside you.
Hey,
Well, no,
hey,
in fact, he was standing ankle deep in the urinal, bathing me with urine. And I was like,
For some reason, I stood there.
it took me about a minute to realize I probably should just do this other stall. By then, my shirt was soaked. Of course, I was hitting him in the pants with my own urine.
material
Crossing
writing
streams.
itself. Material.
Well, I'll say this, and I don't know that this is right, this is correct or not. I was never raised really with a philosophy about work. I think I probably talked to my kids about work a lot when they're growing up, and now my youngest is about to go into college next year, and she's. But the thing I've always stressed, and once again, I don't know if this is correct or not, but I've always said, well, you're going to spend a third of your life asleep, and then a third of your life doing your job, and then the other third is for the catch-all other stuff. So
Yeah.
like the
job stuff, you better do something that you appreciate and enjoy.
That's right.
Because the money won't cover up for.
Yeah.
I know lots of lawyers that, and some people love being lawyers, but I know other lawyers that have to be lawyers once they get out of law school because they got to pay the loans.
Right.
They,
Exactly right.
you know, and they're like, they know just enough to know, oh my God, I don't want to do this.
Exactly right.
So, I mean, you got to have money to live, certainly. And there was certainly a period where, you know, ramen was on the menu quite a bit, but that's, you know, so much of your life is just spent working. And I think work, to me, work is life. I'll never stop working. People may stop buying what I'm selling, but I'll never stop writing, you know, and doing stuff.
Well, you know, I think one of the most enviable things that you've said, and well, I mean, I have a good time in life, but you said, you know, through your job and your work, that you get to laugh a lot, and that, you know, has helped your whole health and existence. And I couldn't agree more. I don't have what you have in the laugh business, but that's such an important thing, and got to be such just a great thing. I mean, it's got to make you sleep well. Like, Man, I mean, it literally physiologically does. I had a great belly laugh today. Life is good.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing.
Yeah, I never really took stock in it before, but I was like, God, we laugh a lot more than most people do.
Yeah.
Certainly the guy who fixed my microwave oven the other day.
Yeah.
Not a barrel of laughs.
Yeah,
I'll tell you. Nice guy, was very good at his job.
Yeah.
Didn't have very good sense of humor though.
Yeah.
He's not. You're not collaborating with him on your next piece there.
No.
Well, speaking of collaborating, you're talking about getting your chops together and working. Working your way up through things, working your way through production, learning how to direct. I've become quite proficient at the podcasting game and production, as you can well see and hear. So anytime you need my services, I want you to, remember. I mean, maybe not. I don't know what my schedule's getting pretty tight here. So, but you can see what, we've been able to accomplish here on this podcast. So
winemaker cameo. Topo Chico. By the way, Dave, there's a running thing that we have going on here with our collaboration. We'll say potential collaboration with Topo Chico and Robbie's
my favorite water.
Pearson Meyer wine and drop the check. So, anytime that I don't know if Meatwad, anyone loves Topo Chico, any characters, Carl.
Well, I love to just give me some tap water. they don't even turn on the tap in here, I think, because they don't pay the bill. You think I'm going to be drinking fancy Mexican water out of a bottle? Be real, brother.
Well,
Hey, that just leaves more Topo Chico for the rest of us, man.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, Topo Chico. Wow.
Well, very good, man. We've taken, plenty of your time, and we greatly appreciate you having the time to spend this time with us. As is the name of the podcast, when all good meals and conversations come to an end, we got to drop the check, and so we're going to drop the check.
Time to drop the check.
Drop the check. You two split it. You two split it. I gotta go. I gotta go to the bathroom. She's coming with the check. You two got it, right?
Hey, friends. Thanks again for joining us today on Drop the Check. If you liked anything about this episode, or even if you didn't, please hit the subscribe button where you listen to this podcast and at Drop the Check on social media and at dropthecheck.com. As always, Drop the Check is brought to you by Pearson Meyer Wines. Pearson Meyer, a really, really good wine. Did you hear that, Topo Chico? For Drop the Check and Robbie Meyer, please have a great day and safe holiday. I'm Mike Anderson. See you next time.